Hey, everybody. Welcome, welcome. Welcome to our Wednesday, September 19th, Tuesday. It's Tuesday.
I was about to say.
September 18th edition of Facebook Live. Like to welcome everybody. Hey, Julanda, Alice, welcome, welcome. We're playing September by Earth, Wind, and Fire. It's our guest's favorite group.
Yes, indeed.
We'll get into that. I want to give some people a chance to come in. Welcome, everybody, to Facebook Live. Byron, welcome. Thanks for being here. I know we're a little bit earlier today, and we're on a different day, but it was important that we get this Facebook Live in before I hit the road, and we were able to get my esteemed guest and friend and mentor and advisor and all those things. Welcome, welcome, welcome. I'm Gina Page. I'm the president of
African Ancestry, right?
I'm the president. I got distracted. People walking in, and I'm the president and co-founder of African Ancestry. I was looking at Arturo's comment. He said, "Oh snap, Dr. Browder." That threw me off. Yes, this is Dr. Browder. I'm Gina Page, the president and co-founder of AfricanAncestry.com. It's September. We are celebrating the month of September.
Yes, indeed.
Some good things going on this month. And one of them is coming up on Saturday, September 22nd. My good friend and guest, Anthony Browder. Tony Browder is here with me. For those of you who don't know, Arturo can tell you, this is oh snap, Dr. Browder in the house here at African Ancestry. And I invited him here because on Saturday, we're going to be together in your hometown of Chicago. Tell us what's going on Saturday.
Well, Saturday is the first of our multi-city tours in celebration of the first decade of the ASA Restoration Project.
Okay.
And the ASA Restoration Project is an endeavor that we've been involved in on the West Bank of Luxor, Egypt, excavating and restoring two 25th dynasty tombs of two Kushite noblemen, one by the name of Karabashkin, the other by the name of Karakomen. And these tombs are 2,700 years old. We're 1 decade into funding.
Hold on.
I'm holding.
Did you all hear that? He and his daughter, Atlantis Browder, are the only African-American father-daughter
archaeological writing, lecturing
people
team
right?
Yes,
to spearhead an excavation in Egypt. And what they're excavating are two tombs that are over 2,700 years old. Did you all hear that? Yes, Byron, that's amazing. It is amazing. I just wanted to make sure we
let that settle in. Okay.
This is truly FUBU right here. They are the only Black Americans, the only Black people, right? Who are excavating tombs in Egypt, and they're 2,700 years old. Okay. All right. Kim is on. Kim Moore. Hey, Christine. Hey. Okay. All right. So that's what they're doing. We got ahead of ourselves.
Okay.
The ASA Restoration Project. Yes. Why is it called ASA Restoration Project?
The ASA Restoration Project is named in honor of my good friend, colleague, brother, Dr. Asa Hilliard, who was responsible for really getting me interested in this whole endeavor. Asa was an educational psychologist. He was a historian. He was a Kemetologist, as he would refer to himself. And Asa also wrote the introduction to my first book, From the Browder File, in 1989. And Asa died tragically and suddenly in Egypt in 2007. And one of the ways that I've learned to honor someone who meant the world to you is to name something after them, a monument, an endeavor, a street, a building after that person, such that every time you speak that person's name, you give life to them. You generate energy and you help people remember them. And it's an African proverb that as long as you speak a person's name, that person continues to live. So the ASA Restoration Project was dedicated on the 21st of September in 2008. So we are 10 years into this historic endeavor, and we're going to Chicago on this Saturday, my hometown, for the first of a series of fundraisers and presentations, letting the world know about the work that we're doing in Egypt.
So we're going to be in Chicago. We're putting the information up. We've posted it already, but we're going to post it again on the 21st at DuSable.
No, the 22nd.
22nd.
22nd is Saturday, the 22nd, at the DuSable Museum.
That's why you need team.
Right, teamwork.
When one person doesn't do it right, the other person can do it right. And so, okay, let's take a step. Please come. Charlene wants you to come to Baltimore. Are you going to be doing one in Baltimore?
Well, Charlene needs to come to DC tomorrow. We're doing our Wisdom Wednesday tomorrow, and I'll be talking about the project. I do that every year. We do a report to the community on the season's excavation in Egypt. So that is tomorrow at 7 o'clock at our the IKG Cultural Resource Center, which is 1816 12th Street Northwest. And she can also come back in December when we do our Kemetologist conference. So Baltimore is right down the road, so you'll have two opportunities to connect.
And what's the website?
IKG-info.com. IKG website. Well, at the IKG website, you can also connect to the ASA Restoration website.
But what's the website for the IKG?
IKG-info.com.
Okay, that's what you said.
Right.
Did y'all see that?
I can say it again. IKG-info.com. You got your ears covered up. That's the thing.
I know, I can't hear out of this ear. Okay. How y'all like my hair wrap? We gave these away last year. Anyway, okay. But you didn't just wake up one day and say, I think I want to go excavate a tomb. How did we get to this point in a nutshell? I know it was many years, but in a nutshell.
Well, in a nutshell, a good friend of mine in Egypt sent his cousin over to see me. I was in Egypt preparing for a study tour, and his cousin was working with Alina Pistakova, who discovered these tombs in 2006. And his nephew was working with Alina at the site. And my friend Abu Naga, who's now an ancestor, thought that I would be interested, sent his cousin over, his nephew over to inform me about the tour. And we made the tomb, and we made arrangements for me to visit it the next day. And so I went to the site, which is on the west bank of Luxor, in an area between the Valley of the Kings, which is to the north, and the Valley of the Queens in the south. And he introduced me to Alina Pistakova, a Russian-born, American-trained Egyptologist who had discovered the tombs in 2006 and was 2 years into the excavation when she ran out of money. So I saw what she had done within that brief period of time excavating. I knew that she had found something magnificent, and that if she didn't continue that work, these tombs would be lost to history again. And so I made a commitment to her to step in and raise the funds. And I had never done anything like this before, but it was an opportunity that was too important for me to let slip through my fingers. And I thought about, how am I going to give life to this? And the area where we're excavating, Gina, is known as South Asasif. The mountain range is known as the Asasif Mountains, which is where the Valley of the Kings is. And we are south of Asasif, so that area is known as South Asasif. And Asasif is spelled A-S-A-S-I-F. ASA. I'll name it in honor of ASA and call it the ASA Restoration Project. So I just kind of pulled everything together. And when I came back to the States, I went to Atlanta and I met with ASA's wife, Patsy, and their son, Hakeem. And I shared my idea with them, and I received their blessings. So on September the 21st in 2008, the ASA Restoration Project was formally introduced.
And just to be clear, you all, they actually do the excavation. He didn't just say, oh, okay, I'll fund this and I'll give you the resources to make it happen. The resources included human resources
Yeah.
in addition to financial resources. So
True.
you take teams there. You've been taking teams there every year for the past 10 years?
I've been taking teams there since 2009.
Okay.
And we've done about 25 missions. So we'll do volunteers will come over and spend at least 2 weeks. So we've done at least 25 of these 2-week missions with people who come over, and they help us out with registration, photography, simple things. We don't have to do any heavy lifting, but there's many different things that need to be done in order to move this project along. And we've been doing it. We've done it. The work speaks for itself.
Yeah. Truly. So if you all have ever seen a National Geographic special or a Discovery Channel special where they're in these tombs and they're chipping away and cataloging, that's what they do.
Right.
And it's so funny because one year you showed a video. I don't know if this is on the IKG site, but like they'll come back and they'll be like, we just found another hole. And then they'll go down in this hole. It's literally a black hole. They can't see anything, but they're fearless. And they go down in these holes, not knowing what they're going to find. And then you uncover these unbelievable
these
rooms
treasures,
and treasures. But what's interesting also to me is that these rooms or these tombs were at one time filled with actual treasures.
Yeah, yeah.
And it's from what I learned sitting in many of your lectures, but also I went on the trip, not the mission part.
No, the mission is not for everybody.
No, right? I didn't do the mission part. I did the part with the air conditioned bus. But anyway, what I learned is that they were looted.
Oh, yeah.
Over time. And so today, when you all are excavating, you find the structures and you may find some vases or some pieces of things, but you don't find the actual riches per se that were included.
When you think of a tomb in an excavation, everyone automatically thinks about King Tut's tomb and all the treasures that were found in his tomb, which had not been pilfered by thieves, right? So Karakamen's tomb was sitting out in an open, so everyone knew where it was. And at multiple times since its construction, it had been robbed, it had been usurped. Now, a usurped tomb is when a new conqueror comes into the area and they say, oh my God, this is a nice tomb, nice carvings and writings. I like this. I want to be buried there. So they scratched out Karakamen's name and wrote their name and had some artists carve their face and they put their body in the tomb. So that's happened multiple times.
Wow.
Right. And then we had the tombs were underneath homes that were built in that area. There was actually a village at that site up until 2010. And the people who lived in that village built homes over where they suspected tombs were. And then in the evening, under cover of darkness, they dig into the ground until they find something. And once they find something, they then use the tombs as their personal ATMs. They will find a mummy. And one of the things that we have found, we found Karakamen's burial chamber in 2010. And it had already been robbed. And then the robbers would fill the tomb up with debris so that we would have to hire their cousins to excavate the tomb. I mean, that's how the game is played. And so we found fragments of a mummified body that had been torn apart by the robbers. All these people are interested in is the gold and the jewelry. So these structures, artifacts have no historical, cultural significance to them. And so what we did find was a mummified hand, and the fingers on the hand, the fingernails were covered with gold leaf. So that was a sign of royalty. Royal personages or members of the royal family, when they were buried, Their fingernails and their toenails were covered with gold leaf, and then they had little small thimble-like objects that were put on each digit, and then they were wrapped up and buried. So the thieves know that this is in the royal tombs.
Right.
And this area in South Ossetia is a burial ground of royal
right, because you
tombs.
said the Valley of the Kings and the Valley of the Queens.
Yep.
Wow.
So they know that there's treasures there, and they look for these tombs. And that's what we had to contend with. And then in the 1990s, there was a natural disaster where there was a flood in that area, and the water running off the mountain came down into the valley and flowed in down the staircase into the entire tomb and filled it up with flood debris. So like the floor, the tomb is 20 feet below ground level. So we had to dig through 20 feet of flood debris in order to get to the floor, in order to get to the rooms. And that's all part of excavating. And if I can channel Forrest Gump for a minute, you know, excavation is like a box of chocolates, because you never know what you're going to get.
That's funny. Wow.
Never know.
So I'm Gina Page. If you're just joining us, welcome, welcome. I'm Gina Page. I'm the president and co-founder of AfricanAncestry.com. And I'm here with, oh snap, awesome Mr. Dr. Tony Browder, Kemetologist. And he so graciously joined us this evening to share with you all about the ASA Restoration Project. I want to shout out Jonathan Medlock. Good to see you. Hi, Stephanie. Jerry, Sean Muhammad. Good to see you. Thank you for joining us. Greetings from Houston, Texas. Will you be going to Houston?
Maybe. I've been at the Shrine on several occasions. Got good friends in Houston. So more than likely, I'll be there soon.
Okay.
Yeah,
okay.
definitely.
So we're here talking about the ASA Restoration Project, which is 10 years old. It's celebrating its 10th anniversary. And Dr. Browder and team is traveling the country. We're going to Chicago this Saturday, September 22nd, to do a fundraiser for the project. Now, let's talk about how the funds will be used.
Sure.
Because this is important. You all have heard what goes into, just a small part of what goes into excavating this tomb, which I said earlier, if you hadn't joined us yet, is for us, by us. Dr. Browder and his daughter Atlantis are the only Black team that are excavating tombs in Egypt today. And so you can't do that for free. It requires money. It's for us, by us. We see, you talked about King Tut and how that's gone on display all over the world. This is where we began.
Exactly.
And it's important for us. You know that old adage, if you don't tell your own history, or the lion, what is it?
Until the lion writes his story, the story will always be written and told by the hunter.
Right. So we're the lions.
I'm a Leo, right on.
There you go. Story. So we got to tell our own story. And he's doing this work for all of us. So we need you all to contribute to the ASA Restoration Project. And when you do, it's going to help.
It does several things. When you think in terms of Egypt, everybody's in Egypt. Japanese, the Polish, the Swiss, the Germans, the Austrians, the French, the British, Americans. Everyone is in Egypt digging and finding things and documenting what they found. We are the first people of African ancestry to fund an archaeological excavation. We work 4 months out of the year. It costs us approximately $10,000 to $12,000 per month. So we're looking at our expenses generally average between $50,000 and $70,000 a year, because we have a team of 92 people working for us.
So they are employing 92 people.
Egyptians. So we've got the men who do the heavy lifting. We've got a group of 17 conservators. We have 3 supervisors. We have an inspector from the Egyptian government who's there. We've got 4 guards who are there 24/7, 365 to secure the site. We've got tools. We've got equipment that we need to buy. We've got supplies that we need to buy. We've completed the excavation portion of the tomb, and now we are rebuilding it. We are restoring it. So we had a brother from Houston, Doug Barnes from Houston in 2013 gave us $3,000. And with that $3,000, we purchased a used stone cutting machine. And with that stone cutting machine, we're now able to cut these huge blocks of limestone, which are larger than an automobile, into manageable pieces that can be used to rebuild the floors, the walls, the pillars of Caracamen's tomb. So we're now able to we're able to cut a stone in 15 minutes that took 4 men like a day to cut. So
for $3,000 used piece of equipment.
A used piece of equipment. Then we had to buy the chain. The chain was another $1,000. We had to have someone bring it down from Cairo and then teach us to use it. So there's expenses all the time. And so we have been funding this project for the past decade. It's not cheap. Most people who are excavating are underwritten by universities or museums, and they have budgets to the tunes of hundreds of thousands of dollars. But we have done more on a shoestring budget than anybody else in Upper Egypt has done.
Well, that's what Black folks do.
Well, it's not just Black folk, involved in the project.
No, but I'm just saying that's what we
do.
That's
more
what
with
we
less.
Do.
Yeah.
And it could be any project we're talking about, and that's what would happen.
Right.
Yeah, for sure.
And the way that we've been able to do it is through people supporting our efforts. We established a nonprofit, a 501c3. The ASA Restoration Project. So everyone who contributes to the project is able to write it off on their taxes. So in essence, it doesn't cost you anything. And that investment allows us to excavate and restore the history of African people who lived 2,700 years ago, African people of the 25th dynasty. The 25th dynasty is the period in the history of ancient Kemet that Dr. John Henry Clark refers to as Africa's last great walk in the sun. These people from Kush, which is now modern day Sudan, came into Egypt around 800, 750 BC, literally to restore the land of their ancestors. They drove out the foreigners, the Libyans, other invaders, and then literally engaged in acts of Sankofa, rebuilt the temples, the monuments, the tombs of their ancestors, reinitiated the rituals that have been going on for 2,000 years. And our two tombs, the tomb of Kerabaskan and the tomb of Caracament, are the first two Kushite tombs in Egypt.
So not only, this is too many layers. These are too many layers here.
I know.
So not only are you all a Black-led excavation team, not only is it wow. Okay, I already said that. And then the tombs that you are excavating are over 2,700 years old, and then they're Kushite tombs.
Right. So let me give you this one figure.
Much.
You mentioned King Tut, so everyone knows a King Tut, right? But we're going to make sure.
A couple people have put that on the comments.
Okay.
King Tut. Okay.
Everyone knows a King Tut, but by the time these tombs are open in 5 years, in 2023, everyone would know of Caracament and Kerabaskan. That's part of our mission. So Caracamen's tomb is 4 times larger than King Tut's tomb. King Tut's tomb is a garage in comparison to Caracamen's penthouse, right? And Caracamen's tomb contains passages from the Book of the Hours, passages from the Book of Coming Forth by Day, and texts from pyramid texts. So it has carved on the walls of his tomb some of the most sacred texts in the history of Kemet. Tut has, a little graffiti here, some paintings here. Our tomb is an architectural and archaeological masterpiece, right? It was built 750 years after Moses, 750 years before Jesus. And it's real. It's there, it's tangible, and we're finding things every season. We find something new.
It's no coincidence that when the Russian American woman Elena was doing the excavation initially, she ran out of money because you all were supposed to.
Exactly.
You all were supposed to have this tomb.
Exactly.
You were supposed to be the ones to excavate it.
That's true.
And I know that your love for Egypt goes back 30 some years now, right?
Yeah, I've been traveling in Egypt for 38 years.
Oh, 40 some years.
38 years.
Oh my.
I've been to Egypt 50 this past last month was my 56th trip to Egypt. So I know a little bit about the country, and the people, and history, just a little bit.
You were supposed to do that.
Yeah.
And you all can travel to Egypt too with IKG and what were the trips called? It's
a study tour, Egypt Light of the World study tour.
Egypt Light of the World. I highly recommend it. I went on it, and it's not a vacation. You are constantly learning. You go, you get up early in the morning, and you spend the day learning in the different sites, and then you come back and he lets you eat dinner and maybe like take a shower, and then you have a lecture in the evening.
It's a study tour.
The evening is it's at night. And it's all night long. You're learning, and it's amazing.
And it's only 15 days. I mean, come on, it's only 15 days.
You can do anything for 15 days.
Indeed.
Julanda, definitely you should go.
Right.
So, Charlene. So we have some questions, Ty. Charlene has a question. Ty's been waiting for. We got to hurry up.
Okay.
Any plans to update the book, My First Trip to Africa? That's the book by Atlantis.
My daughter, my daughter Atlantis wrote that book. I think we published it in 1991. She was 8 years old. She had just gone to Egypt, and we wrote this book together. And my daughter at the time in 1991, when she was 8 years old, was the youngest published author in America. So we are revising that book. Of course not. They don't have time to play. Life is serious.
Yeah.
So we're in the process of revising that book. Okay. So it should be out by the end of the year, first part of next year. And so, thank you for that question.
And then Kim says his mother went with you in 2000. Anything to say about the recent find of Ptolemy Sphinx? Is that right?
Ptolemy.
Ptolemy.
Yeah. Well, first of all, Ptolemy is Greek. And let me put things in context. Less than 15% of the tombs have been found. So people will be finding things for the next 1,000, 2,000 years if the earth is still around. We're talking about 3,000 years of history, 3,000 years of kings and queens and princesses and princes for a period of 30 dynasties. We're talking tens of thousands of tombs that are buried all throughout Egypt, temples and monuments. So Ptolemy, I don't really deal a lot with Ptolemy. Ptolemy represents the Greeks who came into Egypt 332. They built nothing of any profound significance. They copied everything that had been built by the Africans previously. The Ptolemies are the equivalent of Elvis Presley.
Okay, next question. Can you translate the sesh? Slips my mind. I think I've seen you break down the sesh. What is the sesh?
Well, no, I don't read Middle Nature hieroglyphics.
Okay.
The history of Kemet or Egypt is so dense and layered that I found my lane. I've got colleagues who read Middle Nature, and I go to them to translate things. I have a general interest. My primary interest in training is in design, is in architecture, and those are the areas that I focus on primarily.
Okay.
Yeah, so I can't translate it. Sorry.
That's fair. I'm Gina Page. I'm the president and co-founder of AfricanAncestry.com, and we're here with Dr. Tony Browder, Kemetologist, founder of the ASA Restoration Project. We're going to be in Chicago on this Saturday, September 22nd, helping to raise money for the project.
Not only raising money, but we're also raising awareness and consciousness. All right.
Exactly. And that's why we're a team.
Yep.
So he can fill in the blanks, the many blanks that exist in my knowledge of this subject. If it wasn't for
blanks, you wouldn't have anything produced, right? Everything begins with the blank, right?
Exactly. Okay.
Right. So
cool. But I want to produce. I don't want too many blanks. On Saturday at the DuSable Museum from 6 p.m. to 9 p.m. And I'm going to say a few words. And then there's also Ali Kaba.
Kaba Akintunde is going to do 2 numbers. He's a local musician. Don't worry about
40
it.
P's. Oh my goodness.
That's Alibaba.
Oh, see, I'm out.
And my daughter Lantis will be presenting. So it's a good group of DC people coming to my hometown, Chicago, spreading the knowledge, spreading the love, and infusing a greater sense of historical and cultural awareness.
So you know what? We have a few trivia questions, but I feel, so if you all come to the event on Saturday and you mention the Facebook Live with the two of us, we'll give you a gift.
Yeah.
I don't know what the gift is.
No, we got some special things. Yeah,
okay.
We got some stuff.
For Facebook Live viewers?
Live people,
all right, good.
Just tell them you know Gina.
Tell them you know me.
All right.
And then we have a trivia question. We have two. So the first trivia question is, what's the longest river in the world? The first person who answers that correctly will get
Potomac, isn't it?
An African Ancestry Find Your Tribe t-shirt just for you in honor of our thing today. So this t-shirt is for the first person to get that question correct. Do we have another question, Ty? Christine won it, River Nile. Okay, Christine.
Hi, Christine.
I think Christine already has a t-shirt though. We'll get you. Okay, Kim, we'll give you the t-shirt because I'm pretty sure Christine has a t-shirt. I'll
give Christine a copy of my book, Nile Valley Contributions.
Okay,
so
even better. Even better.
Okay.
All right, there's a question. I would like to know if there have been findings of DNA of Black Americans connected to ancient Kemites. Well, Jerry, we're working on that project right now.
We're working on that, and I can tell you the answer is yes. How definitive that yes is, we're working on it, and I'm sure you'll hear about it first on African Ancestry Facebook Live. But we've got a ton of surprises waiting for you. So in order for us to do this work and continue to reveal these surprises, this historical information, we need support. Yeah. And that's why we're doing the fundraiser. That's why we're getting the word out. And you mentioned For Us, By Us, right? And that's really what this is all about, because contemporary Egyptologists ignore the 25th dynasty. They refer to the 25th dynasty as the Negro dynasty. And no one is really interested in doing any serious research on the 25th dynasty. So Alina Pistakova is one of the world's foremost authorities in the art and history of the 25th dynasty. She has this passion. So when I met her in 2006 and saw what she had used her own funds to uncover, and told me her story of how she was unable to get funding, but she was so committed to this work. She used her own money, and she had run out of money. And I saw her heart. I felt her spirit. I knew she was serious. I knew this was the real deal. So we stepped in, and we are in a position now to literally rewrite the history of the 25th dynasty. And in doing so, we are rewriting the history of Kemet. Kemet, you know, we've been using this term, Kemetologist. Kemet is the original name for the country that the Greeks, Ptolemy and his boys, renamed Egypt. Egypt is a Greek word. Sphinx is a Greek word. Pyramid is a Greek word. So one of the things that we have to do as people of African ancestry is to begin to identify ourselves as African people, right? So that's why African ancestry is so important. You know, getting to that DNA, knowing who you are, how deep those roots are, and it changes everything, beginning with changing your mind, your perception of self. So once you change that, it's over.
There are steps to this.
It's a process.
Steps to this thing.
It's a process.
You've got two of the steps here in front of you. Somebody asked a question. So Tony is an accomplished author, and you've self-published all of your books, if I'm not mistaken.
Sure. Yep.
So can you just tell us the names you've got from the Browder Files?
Which is my first book. My second book was Nile Valley Contributions to Civilization. Then came Browder File Volume 2, Survival Strategies for Africans in America, 13 Steps to Freedom. I've written a book called, I did a lecture on Avatar and put that in book form. I've done a study guide for Nile Valley Contributions to Civilization. I've done another book on the excavations called Finding Karakamen. We've done a book called Hidden Truths, which is a companion to Hidden Colors 2, which I was in, that literally lays out the references for that powerful documentary. I've co-authored 2 books with my daughter, co-authored 4 other books. I'm working on some other projects as we speak.
And he's got like 10 books in his head.
Yeah.
That we need you to get out of your head.
Yeah.
Christine, you beat me to it. I was just waiting for him to finish. You can get these books on mahoganybooks.com.
Yes.
Our partners over at mahoganybooks.com. So I definitely encourage you to get one or all of these books. They're all amazing. And just look at what he's sharing with us in 30 minutes, 35 minutes. If you ever have the opportunity to hear Tony speak, he lectures on everything. Don't let a movie come out. A movie comes out, and he's got the lecture for that. Black Panther, Avatar.
I just sent one out today.
See?
The Selma. What was that about the slave? 12 Years a Slave.
Yeah.
Empire.
Oh yeah, Empire.
Because the thing is, my former training is in graphic design and advertising, right? So I'm really an artist by training, and so I understand the structure of films. I understand the structure of television programs and commercials. So I think like an artist, I write like an artist, and I use a lot of visuals to help the reader see what I'm talking about. So it's using both hemispheres of the brain in order to engage people, Black people specifically, who've been socialized to disparage reading. What's the old saying? If you want to keep a secret from Black folk,
put it in a book.
Right. So we have to understand where that saying stems from. It was illegal for our enslaved African ancestors in America to read or write. They caught you writing, they cut your fingers off. They caught you reading, they would blind you. There are documented cases of that happening to African people. So that aversion to reading, that aversion to knowledge is encoded in our DNA. Mm-hmm. And so we've got to write new code. We've got to write books that people can read, write them such that they are accessible, write books for adults, write books for children, write books for teenagers, so that learning can be something that takes place in the school and in the home. So every Black household should have a library.
Yeah.
Right.
And now if your kids to bring younger people in, you're doing like they can listen to these lectures, and like you said, your visuals are very
engaging.
I was working with a 25-year-old today, and I'm telling you what, I know they were laughing at me in the office. I was like, slow down. He was like, and then go here and go here and go here and go here. And I was like, no, I'm twice your age. I can't think like that. So yeah, you have to keep your delivery evolving with the audience. Okay, we have one more trivia question for the Find Your Tribe t-shirt. Which direction does the River Nile flow in?
Good question.
Which direction does the River Nile flow in? Mm-hmm. That's the question for an African Ancestry Find Your Tribe t-shirt. Do you have one of these?
I don't know. Can I answer the question again?
No, you can't answer the question, but we'll give you one. Oh, and they come in green too. You can give us your color preference.
Blue's my favorite color.
Okay, well, this one might be yours. No, this one's not yours. But here's the other color choice. You guys can get, okay, Kim said south. Kim, you already won.
Well, Kim probably has my book.
Byron.
Kim, get somebody else to tell us.
All right, Byron, you get the Find Your Tribe t-shirt. You get to tell us which color you want, blue or green. So tell us about this If Flowing South.
Well, the Nile River is the longest river in the world, over 4,000 miles long. So water follows gravity, right? Flows from a higher elevation to a lower elevation. So there are 2 primary sources for the Nile River. You have the Blue Nile coming out of Ethiopia, and you have the White Nile coming out of Uganda in that region. So the mountains are high, there's snow on top of the mountains, and every summer the snow melts and the water flows down the mountain into a tributary, and the tributaries form 2 rivers. The White Nile, which comes from further south, is a rapidly flowing river. And so because it flows so fast, it's called the White Nile because of all the foam and things that you see. Whereas the Blue Nile, which comes out of Ethiopia, is a much calmer river. So you can see the reflection of the sky, and it's called the Blue Nile. And the two Niles meet in Khartoum in Sudan and form the singular Nile River, which flows all the way into Egypt, into the Mediterranean Sea.
But south is really
so
up.
South is a higher elevation. So south is up and north is down.
So it's kind of weird because when you think.
All right. So we have to think like Africans. We have to think like Africans, right? So in Kemet, south was up and north was down.
That's what's
in America, in Europe, we say down south. Why is south down and north up? Because Europe is in the north, right? And they built the maps to favor Europe, right? So south is up, which means whites are up. And I mean, north is up, which means whites are up. And Africa is in the south, and which means blacks are down. So it's a psychological form of liberation to reorient yourself to the Nile River, to the source of the water, the source of life, to the source of our ancestors, the source of knowledge, to the source of spirit that has sustained and maintained the world. Drop the mic.
I don't even know what to do now. All right. Well, you know what? This is a good place to end. We didn't do any African ancestry business. You gave us the African ancestry business today. Thank you very much. I hope you all, we see some of you in Chicago. And it's not just Chicago. So Chicago is on September 22nd. Yep. And then Atlanta is on October 13th, Saturday, October 13th at the Woodruff Library at the Atlanta University Complex. So for those of you who are in Chicago, come see us on Saturday. For those of you who are in Atlanta, I know there are a lot of you, and we have big family in Atlanta. I hope to see you on October 13th. Yes. And remember, when you come to the event, if you mention the Facebook Live, you're going to get a special gift. Something. You're going to get something. Yes. Well, if you come, you're definitely going to get something. But if you mention Facebook Live, right, you're going to get something. And you don't have to come to the events to donate to the project. True. You all can go to ikg-info.com and make a donation to this project. Again, I'm Gina Page, the president and co-founder of African Ancestry. This is Anthony Browder, Kemetologist, the only Black leader of the only Black excavation team in the world. The only team to be excavating a Kushite tombs. Two Kushite tombs. He's restoring our ancestry, helping us to rewrite the story from our perspective. And so I encourage you all to support him and his effort, the ASA Restoration Project. Again, buy the books. Come out to the lectures. He'll be in DC tomorrow evening at Wisdom Wednesday. You can find out all the details. We'll post them on our site at the Thurgood Marshall Center. And Tony, thank you. Hey, Gina, thank you. Will you come back for another Facebook Live? I only come where I'm invited. That's an invitation. So all you got to do is invite me. Yes. You're invited to come back. Thank you. Look forward to it. Okay. All right. And thanks to Ty Brooks, our Uber Facebook producer. What's up? Thank you all for joining. Please share this. If you ever shared a Facebook Live, share this one, okay? Because we've been getting lots of views recently, thanks to you all for watching. And so let's spread the word so that we can help support this project. You all have a good night. Take care. Peace. Please.